Thank you again for joining us today, and welcome to the Edge Discovery Workshop with ProCredit Kosovo. We're very grateful to be partnering with the bank and with Sintali-SGS for this kickoff of the Green Real Estate Finance Program in the country. My name is Rusmir Music, and I will serve as your host for today's workshop. I am the Global Business Development Lead for IFC's Edge program. And apologies again, I had tested my system, but something is wrong with my video. So you will see our other panelists, but unfortunately I will be a shadow background for you, and I hope that's okay. I will soon be joined by Fatos Hassani, representing the ProCredit Bank, and Eleni from our Edge certifying partner, Sintali, in consortium with SGS as well. A few logistics notes about the webinar. The webinar is being recorded. Materials will be shared in a few hours once the system generates the recording. During the webinar, please use the Q&A feature to ask questions. You can submit questions at any point during the webinar, as we are leaving plenty of time at the end for answers. At the end of the presentation, before we turn to questions, we'll ask you to fill out our feedback survey, which helps us improve our delivery. Our agenda today includes several main sections. Fatos will explain the reasons that ProCredit is launching the Green Real Estate Program in Kosovo. He will explain the types of projects ProCredit can finance and the incentive that the bank is launching. I will then introduce our Edge program and will in particular show you how to use the Edge software for self-assessment against green criteria. Eleni will explain the technical assistance options provided. She will also talk about other benefits working with Edge, such as marketing. In the end, we will have a lot of time for Q&A. With that, I will turn it over to Fatos, I'm making him a presenter, to explain the Green Real Estate Program for ProCredit in Kosovo. Fatos, go ahead. You can turn on your video as well and unmute yourself, and you can share the screen.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today with Rusmir and Eleni to present the green program that we have partnered up to present to you for the developers as well as construction companies who are engaged in purchasing and developing green buildings. Let me share my screen. Okay, I hope you can see it. So what is this Green Real Estate Program in Kosovo that we are launching?
I'm not sure it's come through yet, Fatos. Let's see. I don't see it on my end, just so you know.
Let me just try again.
And I can show it from my end as a backup.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, let me do that. Sorry about technical difficulties. See? There you go.
Okay, thank you. So we as ProCredit, we thought that in this time of climate crisis, it is essential to respond to climate crisis. And what better way to respond to climate crisis as to tackling the issue from the building and construction sector. Since we know that climate crisis is a fact which is caused by our human activity, we as well know that the building and construction sector contributes to almost 40% of the greenhouse gas emissions. Buildings alone contribute almost to 20% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. That's why we think that the best way to tackle the issue of the climate crisis is through the green buildings. So why are we doing this? Can you just go to the next slide? Okay, so our aim is to stimulate the market of green buildings in Kosovo. We have realized that there is a lack of standard of evaluating the green buildings in Kosovo. We, as ProCredit, we do have a platform on assessing and evaluating the energy efficiency of the green buildings in Kosovo. And we do have a green finance program for financing the green buildings. But this is not enough. We thought that it is not enough for us to claim that our clients have green buildings and are financing energy efficiency buildings. We thought that this should be able to be done by our clients as well as by other parties in Kosovo. So that's why we are launching this program together with IFC and Sintali, so to enable and facilitate the certification of energy efficient buildings from our clients through EDGE. Another reason is that we want to tackle this issue in order to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions caused by the construction and building sector. To mitigate the impact, we must try to keep warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels, which is what was agreed in the Paris Agreement. This means we need net zero emissions by 2050, which means halving current emissions by 2030. Also, there is a push from the upcoming legislation. The European Union's commitment to become carbon neutral by 2050 means that all new buildings will need to be built under zero carbon standards, and there will be a major retrofit effort to tackle the existing building block. The EU announced the renovation wave in October 2020, which is focused on improving the energy efficiency profile of buildings in the EU as part of its strategy. This is also a part of our group's, ProCredit Group's global commitment to sustainability. We have committed that we want to become carbon neutral in the midterm from our own activities. Also, we have committed to increase the green loan share in total portfolio to 20%. Right now, our green loan share to total portfolio as of November 2020 is 16.5. 50% of our green loan portfolio is to green buildings. So, what is this green building initiative? And who are eligible clients? The clients that we want to address and we are looking for are the homeowners and real estate developers who invest in different projects. Projects who, which have the highest, let's say, energy expense in terms of electricity and energy. So they would have the biggest opportunity to reduce their energy demand and as well as their costs in terms of utility bills. These projects can be apartment buildings, warehouses, business premises, hospitals, restaurants, etc. The green building package includes a free technical support with an EDGE expert, a discount on the certification and audit fees to undergo green building certification, and as well a discounted interest rate of up to 0.5% on loans. Other clients who are eligible are also our existing clients who have been financed by us before and are not seeking a finance right now. It doesn't mean that we would discount the interest rate retroactively, but they would be eligible for the free technical support with an edge expert and a discount on certification and audit fees to undergo green building certification. For the first two incentives, Eleni will talk later in more details. But for the last one, I want to show what does it mean in terms of savings through the green program, in terms of savings um, in investing in building or from the home buyer mortgage finance perspective. So in the left side, you can see that for a typical loan size of 750,000 euros and a duration of 5 years, the green program benefit over a loan period would be 10,424 euros in savings only by the reduction of the interest rates. And on the right side, you can see from the perspective of the home buyer mortgage finance that for a typical loan size to buy a house or an apartment of 150,000 euros for a duration of 8 years, the green program benefit over a loan period would be 3,500 euros savings. And for more details on the certification on Edge, I will hand it over to Resmir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatos. You can turn off your video. And again, I apologize for my video not being on, some sort of technical difficulty. And it's very, very exciting to hear about this incentive from ProCredit Bank, which they are launching globally. There's some work going in Ecuador, now in Kosovo and other countries as well. And you can see that we'll show you through the EDGE program that the benefits can be for both the developers on your loans, as well as to differentiate yourself and sell a much better property to your clients if they're home buyers. Now that we've heard from ProCredit Bank, let's talk about the way that you can reach the green criteria, and that's through the EDGE Green Buildings program. Before we start, I'll just quickly introduce IFC. IFC is a member of the World Bank Group, which is focused on solutions for private sector development. Part of our mission is to create markets that support climate business. IFC created the Green Building Market Transformation Program for a comprehensive approach to sustainable buildings. This is a 4-part strategy that includes us working with banks, both through investment and advice, investing directly into the building sector, advising governments on green building codes and incentives. So if you're government listening, we would love to work with you, and the EDGE certification program. IFC has done $6.5 billion in investments into green buildings space, and we have certified 16 million meters square of space to our EDGE program. Let's take a step back and define exactly what we mean by a green building. IFC created EDGE in part to answer the need for a common definition of a green building that connects investors, developers, buyers, and regulators. And the international green building definitions agree that a building must be certified green as verified by an independent third party. It needs to have 20% better performance than the local baseline and has to be able to quantifiably show those impacts. The good news is that if the building meets the above criteria, 100% of new finance or even refinance can be counted as green. This is interesting to you because EDGE is aligned with other international green finance criteria, including investor-oriented associations in capital markets, the EU taxonomy, as well as those platforms that disclose climate action such as CDP and GRESB. What this means is that working with EDGE, you will not only satisfy green criteria by ProCredit Bank, you will also be able to work with other financial institutions, whether development banks such as World Bank or other commercial banks in the region. One of the main barriers to building green is the perception of high costs of green measures. But we see from many of our clients that reaching 20% efficiency can cost very little, lower than 1% of incremental cost and sometimes zero. The free technical assistance will help you find the lowest cost option to achieve the green standard. And the incentive from ProCredit should well offset any incremental cost you may experience. You can see that we have many case studies from around the world that achieved just that. So now you may ask, how will you recognize a building as green? How will your clients know how this building was designed? And how will end buyers, whether homeowners or commercial tenants, recognize the value of a green building? One of the main solutions that we're proposing is EDGE, which stands for Excellence in Design for Greater Efficiency. EDGE consists of three components. First, the free software, so again, the software itself is free, helps you choose the most cost-effective ways to build green. Second, EDGE is an achievable green building standard with a 20% resource efficiency criteria that complies with international green building standards. And third, EDGE is a certification system to verify and reward green building projects through a green label. The EDGE software is the first of its kind in the world. We will do a demo, but we want to show you here that the complexity of the application is hidden beneath the user interface, making it easy for you to cut back on the resource intensity of your building design. EDGE certification is possible for both new and existing buildings. Today, we will focus a bit more on the residential sector for new buildings, but EDGE is available across different typologies. Multiple projects can be certified with a portfolio approach to transform a company's business model and to maximize profits. Here is where EDGE is a bit different from other certification standards. We focus only on three categories of resource efficiency with an achievable minimum threshold. To reach the EDGE standard, a project must get to 20% savings in energy use, 20% savings in water use, and 20% less embodied energy in the construction materials as compared to a local baseline. But EDGE has already calculated what the local baseline looks like for those buildings coming online for different subsectors and even different economic strata within the subsector. So low-income housing is going to be different than high-income housing. Housing will be different than hotels. And in hotels, a one-star hotel will be different than a four-star resort. If your project meets or exceeds the standard, it can be certified for a modest fee. And each certificate lists the percentage savings and the measures utilized to achieve those green savings. When it comes to residential projects, each unit receives its own green certificate. You can see here it says Unit 1 under here. And this can then be used for green mortgages. You as developers will be a key piece in the green mortgage market. I'll now proceed to a live demonstration of the EDGE software. But I want you to know that our EDGE YouTube channel has many other resources for you. There is a 5-minute EDGE demo available, as well as training on how to reach certain measures, as well as how to register your project and apply for certification. The recording of this webinar will also be available from our YouTube channel. So I'll switch over to showing this on the website. The EDGE software is available from edgebuildings.com. This area has much more information as well. It has reasons, for example, that developers can work with EDGE with lots of case studies of projects around the world. One of the case studies that we'll show on the marketing is for homes, where one of our clients, Capital House in Vietnam, sold their homes about 20% faster than average after certifying with EDGE. And you can see many, many other case studies that we are showing here. There's a lot of technical advice down here. So our methodology, protocols, and others is available here. And the marketing toolkit is here. And then maybe most importantly, every single project that gets certified receives a case study. These case studies can be used as a proof of concept if you need to learn what others have done around the world, or once your project gets certified, we will use the case study for additional marketing. And you can see, for example, if I'm talking about homes, we have many, many case studies of homes projects certified around the world. There are no projects yet certified in Kosovo because this is really the launch of our program. The Edge app is available here, but I've already opened it up and I've started a project for Kosovo in the country. I'm looking at homes and I'm looking at an upper middle class housing in Pristina. I will actually start on the water side because it's a little bit simpler to show you how Edge calculates information. I'm going to do this. I think Edge is a little bit better when it's skinnier. There we go. So you can see that the Edge app produces a base case, and this base case is specific to high-income housing or upper-middle-income housing in Kosovo and Pristina. If this were being done in other part of the world, let's say in Ghana or Mongolia, this breakdown will look very different. And it will, of course, look very different for commercial building, hospital, school, and others. Edge is color-coded so that each of these interventions corresponds to a particular area. And so I can start attacking things that make the most sense. And I want to show you here how the two parts of Edge are intertwined. So even though you must reach 20% in each of these categories, you cannot get 40% in water and 10% in energy and average it out, you can see that there is a boost between water and energy, which means that I'm heating up less water for my showers, and that means that my apartment is now using less energy. And when I go to the energy side, this is the area that I've already saved. Not surprisingly, hot water in an apartment building is a large energy usage, and I have already solved my hot water problem just by pumping less water. I will continue with others. And they are very sensible measures: low flow faucets, dual flush for water closets. And you can see that with few measures that should not cost that much, and it might be something that you're already planning to internalize in your system to comply with other standards, that you can reach 25% energy saving and even almost over 10% on the energy side. I can then look into other measures that make sense for me. But before we do that, notice that Edge is calculating my incremental cost. So here, this is in dollars. It's only $24 per unit. There is a utility cost reduction that's related to that, and a very attractive payback in years. So these are the pieces that, again, you can sell to your customers, because we know that energy costs are rising. And so these utility cost reductions are only going to become more important for them. In the current version of Edge, lighting is considered a green measure. And so for now, projects can actually reach efficiency through lighting. In future, this will actually go away as LEDs become more prevalent. And then I can look for other things. For example, I could look for heat pump for hot water, high efficiency boiler, and other things. But you can see that even with a few things that I've done, I have reached almost 48% energy saving. My incremental cost is potentially very high. So potentially, I don't need to do this. I can find a different way to get to my efficiency. Maybe I'll switch it to hot boiler, and then I will monitor here incremental cost and payback and saving for every single one of those measures. There we go. I'm at 17%. Let's see. 19. I need one more. Let's see. Took it down. Okay, I will do this more expensive one. If I don't know what these measures mean, I can click on every one of them. This gives me a description of the process. You can see this is a short description. And then I can click on more info to find out the full user guide. So the user guide will open to that particular measure. It will show the approach and the summary. We'll get here, potential technologies and strategies. And there should be always a compliance guidance. When I'm ready to certify, I will click on here and I will upload my documents directly in the Edge software. So the Edge will prompt me exactly what it is that I need to upload. You can see here, roof construction details, calculations of U-value, manufacturer's data sheet. So all of that information is described directly in the Edge software, and this particular interface will change with you as the project goes from design construction to post-construction. You will get direct prompts, and you'll be able to leave your comments for the client as well. The materials section is a little bit different. So where energy and water were optional, you can click and unclick on the materials. As we're constructing our building, we know that we need floors, roof, walls, and others. And that's why this is a pull-down menu of choices. And again, lots of choices are available. I'm gonna probably tackle my floor and roof construction, and that typically can get me to 20% because I think this is a high-rise building. So lots of opportunity for savings there. And you can see now that with the 3 interventions, I have reached my Edge standard across energy, water, and materials. I can now save this. And I can actually share this project with ProCredit or with other members of my team, or I can download a snapshot of Edge in a PDF format. And that again can start my conversation either with Sintali in terms of their technical assistance, or it can be sent to ProCredit as part of your initial compliance on what the building is looking to achieve. And again, remember that the PDF will highlight the measures that you have chosen. And in the end, it's going to give you the compliance checklist so that there's no surprises. You will know in advance whether your building is compliant with the Edge standard. You will know what the gap may be to get to that compliance, and you will know exactly what documents you will need to keep in order to demonstrate this information in the end. So there's absolutely no surprises. I will stop here and I will turn it over to Eleni. She will walk you more through the Edge certification process. She will also give you more information on the technical assistance options, and then we'll finish a little bit more on the marketing availability through Edge. And then we will have lots of time in the end for Q&A.
Thanks so much, Rusmir, and good afternoon from my side as well. It is a pleasure to be here and talk to you all about Edge and this new program with ProCredit. We're very excited to support it and to launch it and get more green buildings out there in Kosovo. So, as Rusmir mentioned, Edge is really the key within this whole program, and it's really the way in which you can really access the green building market. And hopefully, as you've seen with the Edge app, it's so easy and streamlined to start understanding the impact of your building using the Edge application. And that's really the goal, and that's really what IFC was looking for when they put the software together, to really hide that complexity behind the scenes and allow you to really understand your building, understand how it compares to your local baseline, and really give you a roadmap of how to improve that building and how to make it more resource efficient, because that's really what those options are on the software. It's pretty much everything you could be implementing within your buildings to make it resource efficient. And of course, you don't have to do everything, but it's a great way to really understand the associated costs, the associated efficiency measures, the carbon impact, and start to make better decisions using the software. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on the certification process, because this is going to be a key part of the financing as well. One of the key reasons to go for certification is really to have this third-party validation that your building really is green. And that's important, of course, to access your financing, but also it's important for your stakeholders, whether they are your end customer, whether they are other investors, whether it is other businesses. Really having that certification as an important element of the broader scheme of things to prove your green credentials and really use it to validate your achievements. Now, as Rusma mentioned, there's two certificates within the certification process. So EDGE is designed as a design tool, so really using it at the early stage of the process to design a green project. You can also, however, use it for retrofitting an existing building. So it's accessible for both new and existing buildings. But what happens is there is a preliminary certificate, and that is being delivered at certification of the design of the building. So once you have the design ready to go, you have that all finalized, you can submit it and start the preliminary certification process. And at that point, once you've used the application, and as Rusma showed, putting in the documentation and really showing that this is how you're going to design the building, then the third party comes in, and that is Sintali-SGS. And they'll audit the design process, they'll audit the design documentation and issue this preliminary certificate. Now, once the building has been designed, naturally you move into the construction phase. So things might change a little bit. We know construction, often things don't go quite according to plan. And so that's why there's the second phase, and this is the post-construction certificate. And that means after the building has been built, then somebody from SGS goes on site, does a site audit, checks that everything is where it's supposed to be, that it's as efficient as it had originally been designed, and then we move into this post-construction certificate. So there's two certificates, the preliminary and the final. We've mentioned a little bit about this 20% for meeting the EDGE standard. There is also another two levels. There's EDGE Advanced and EDGE Zero Carbon. EDGE Advanced means you're getting 40% energy efficiency improvement over the local baseline and at least 20% for that water and materials. And the EDGE Advanced certificate is the key certificate needed if you want to move into EDGE Zero Carbon. The EDGE Zero Carbon is a zero carbon accreditation, and it's looking at the operational energy of the building. So to reach the EDGE Zero Carbon, you have to first reach EDGE Advanced, because that means you've got at least 40% energy efficiency on site, and then look at going for on-site renewables, off-site renewables, the procurement of green energy, and ultimately offsetting any leftover emissions. But a building has to be in operation for at least a year, because it is a certification that looks at the operations of a building, so the operational impact. So you need to have at least a year's worth of data to be able to go for the EDGE Zero Carbon accreditation. Now, throughout the whole process, Sintali and SGS are by your side to really help you. And I suppose before going any further, it's probably prudent to introduce who Sintali and SGS are. So Sintali and SGS are two separate companies that work together for the EDGE certification and audit services. So we are one of IFC's global EDGE certification providers. And we have a presence throughout the world and have been at this for a very long time, so have a lot of experience in the green building and auditing sector. Now, our differentiator and our real value for clients is that we offer a one-stop shop approach. And so that idea is that you're only working with one entity to cover everything that you're going to need to go through this EDGE certification process. What that looks like in practice is the certifier and the auditor, so that's Sintali and SGS, as well as a technical consultant, are all included in one package, and you only have one contract, one document that has all the fees you need, and you're only really interacting with one entity. Now, we've thrown around this word of EDGE expert, All an Edge expert is a consultant who has been trained on the Edge application and the Edge process. So Edge experts are accredited by IFC, and they have the background knowledge to really know the details of Edge, to be able to advise, to be able to support, to be able to understand what kind of documentation is required for the certification process, and really act as that consulting entity. And so with the Sintali-SGS offer, we're combining all of these three services into one and offering one package to you to really help you make this green building certification process as easy and as streamlined as possible. In the past, green building certification processes have been complicated, very time consuming, very expensive, very resource heavy. Edge really changes that, and we really hope that with our model as well, we're really making it as straightforward as possible to really help you make as many green buildings as possible in Kosovo. We've gotten really good feedback working around the world, so we are absolutely sure that this is going to be a really good experience for you as well. So what we've done is we include consultancy as part of our offer. And we think this is really important because we know Edge is new. You might not be familiar with Edge. You might not have ever come across it or used the application. And so having that support throughout the process will really help you and will really help you maximize this wonderful offer and program that ProCredit Kosovo has put together. So when we talk about support, we have developed this agreement and this program with ProCredit Kosovo to offer two levels of support. And both of them are at no cost to you as the client. So the first phase in this process, so if you're interested in a green building project, the first step is the application process, where you will put in an application to ProCredit Kosovo to request the loan. Now, in this application phase, you would be required to do an Edge self-assessment. And again, as Rusmir showed, all you have to do is go into the application and put in some information about your building and how it's going to be designed. And again, that sounds simple, and it is quite straightforward, but we know it would be a lot easier if you had someone by your side who knows how everything works and can help guide you through it. And so our offer is that you're going to get 1 hour of free support from an Edge expert, so a trained consultant, to help you fill in that Edge assessment. And that's going to be the first step in the financing process, where you're submitting this self-assessment to ProCredit amongst any other documentation required for the due diligence process. Now, if we move to the second stage, let's assume that either you're getting the financing, or if you're one of the group of clients, as Fatos mentioned, where you don't actually need financing, but you're still interested in going for the green building certification, then we move into the second element of support, and that is the support for the Edge certification process. So during the process, and I can go back to the slide with the workflow, but as you're putting together the documentation, going through the preliminary certificate and the final certificate, we are also offering you 8 hours of consultancy support at no cost to you to help you through this process. And I'll show you a breakdown of what that looks like. But this is really, again, a trained consultant within Edge that can help you through the process, can provide advice, really give you the information you need within Edge to make it as smooth and as streamlined as possible. So that will include having them represent you within the interacting with the auditor and the certifier, doing a kickoff meeting, doing technical training to help you really understand how to best put information within the Edge application, supporting on the documentation, doing some spot checking, and really supporting for any questions and answers that come during the certification process from the auditor and the certifier, because there might be a documentation that you submit that maybe the auditor or the certifier has questions on or needs clarifications. So you have somebody there by your side, really helping you, guiding you, and providing you the support you need to make it a smooth process as possible. And if I just flip back into the certification flow, just as a quick reminder, so the support that you're getting once you go into the EDGE certification process is amongst this entire workflow. So you're getting support right in the beginning to do that kickoff meeting to help get you familiar with EDGE. The EDGE expert helps to support you in registering the project on the EDGE application. They're helping you submit the design documentations. They're spot checking the documentation. They're helping answer any questions that might come up during the site visit, and really helping guide you right from the beginning on the left side all the way through to the right side. So really, you have that support to help you through the process. I'll flip back to the other bit. You're probably wondering what the fees are associated with certification and auditing. Now, as mentioned, this support package, this consultancy, is included at no cost. And you are getting the 1 hour of free EDGE expert support at the point of application for financing. To undergo certification and auditing, we follow 2 pricing models. The first pricing model is what we call our standard projects. And standard projects have to be defined, as you're seeing on the left-hand side of your screen, as if it's a residential project, it has to be a building with up to 3 typologies, so up to 3 types of designs of apartments, and up to 150 units. If it's a commercial building, then a standard project is a commercial building with 1 use type. So for example, an office, a warehouse, a hospital, a school. When you start getting into mixed use developments, so for example, a building that has retail and an office, then we're moving into non-standard projects. And this is also true for residential projects that have more typologies or more units. For non-standard projects, we issue pricing based on information that we collect from the client. Now, don't worry, it's not taking the pricing and multiplying it by the difference. So if you have 3 commercial buildings, it won't be the 10,700 times. It much more appropriately, but it's simply us understanding the building, understanding how it would be presented within EDGE, and really coming up with the best price possible to match the work. So it doesn't matter from our side too much how big the projects are, but really how complex they are as well. So if you're thinking of a project and it fits on the right-hand side of the screen and the non-standard projects, we would get some information from you to help guide us on the pricing, and then we would provide a bespoke quote for you. Now, to really help you, because we know that this is fairly new in Kosovo and certification, you might be wondering the benefits of certification. We are offering a discount on the audit fees to help further support you in this journey towards green buildings. So all ProCredit clients can access a 10% discount on audit fees, regardless of the project, whether it's standard or non-standard. And any clients that are interested in a remote auditing support, where essentially they're providing a representative from the company to be able to walk around in the building and be guided by an auditor remotely, then you can actually access a 20% discount on audit fees. And this is a timeless offer. So whether you do this tomorrow or in 6 months, this offer will still apply to you. However, if you are excited and ready to get going on a green building project, for the first 3 projects that get certification with this program, we're offering free registration. So that's an additional $300 off for the first 3 projects. So if this sounds interesting to you, if you have an idea, if you want to start looking at this, then we definitely advise you to move quickly to be able to get that additional incentive for the registration. Now, I've mentioned this a little bit, but certification really goes beyond this ProCredit financing program. So, of course, this is a very all-encompassing program with the financial incentive and, of course, the free consultancy and the discount on the auditing. But ultimately, certification of a green building goes far beyond that. And Rusmir mentioned this, but I'd like to highlight just a few examples of why certification makes sense for you and really what the benefits are. So first of all, we heard a little bit about this, but there is a speed of sales that comes when you have a certified building. So developers and companies that own and are selling or sometimes even leasing green buildings can do it at a much faster rate. So, for example, there's a developer in Colombia that was able to sell their property in a record of 45 days. And then we also have seen examples in Mexico where we've actually halved the time that it takes to be able to sell a project because of the green building certification. So really looking at the speed of sales becomes a really competitive and interesting benefit. There's also savings to be found, and savings across different ways. So of course, using the Edge software tool, you're finding savings by making the building more resource efficient. So if it's using less energy and it's losing less water, then you're finding savings. But there's also savings in terms of the cost of sales. So if you're able to sell your properties more quickly, you're also able to reduce the cost of those sales. So for the example that Rusma mentioned, where we're seeing a 20% sale rate that's faster than normal, that means a decrease of the cost of sales by 3%. And of course, with all these savings, you can rechannel the savings and use them for a different purpose. So for example, in Ghana, we saw a hospital using the savings, so the savings they were able to find from having a more energy and water efficient building, and using it to then actually pay for the cost of construction. So being able to identify savings and then channel them into something else. There's also a change in market demand. So clients are becoming more aware of sustainability and are asking for green credentials and really asking for companies to prove that they're doing something that's green. And that's really where the certification comes in, because without it, you could be seen as greenwashing, which is essentially marketing something that isn't true for sustainability. Whereas having the EDGE certificate, which is backed by the World Bank brand, really gives credibility to those claims. And that can lead to higher tenant capacity. So you can really see that customers actually choose to rent from green buildings, as we saw in Ghana. And you can also see that homeowners are choosing to purchase sustainable homes. So particularly for the residential space, homeowners looking for energy efficient and resource efficient buildings and choosing places where they know that there's a verified efficiency savings. And finally, brand value. EDGE is backed by the World Bank IFC, and that gives incredible validation of achievements and can really support stakeholders throughout the entire value chain. So whether it's gaining market recognition and using it for marketing purposes, whether it's going for awards or using it to really become leaders in the market, there's really a lot to be gained from having the EDGE certification. And really, I think you can see from this variety of examples around the world, it is happening around the world. There are quantifiable benefits of going for certification, and it really does go beyond accessing a financial incentive and really rather bringing value to the business as a whole. Now, a little bit more on the marketing side. Rusma mentioned that all projects can be featured on the IFC website with case studies, which is a really good marketing tool, and IFC is really, really good at supporting and pushing out the information about these certified projects. And of course, Sintali-SGS are also ready and very willing to help support on the marketing. And there's so many different things you can do with an EDGE certificate. You can see on your screen right now, IFC's put together a variety of different resources and templates and ideas of how you can best maximize the benefit of having this EDGE certification, from issuing a press release and using press release templates to creating videos of your project, all the way through to the case study, applying for award ceremonies, etc. So really, there's a lot you can do and a lot of value to be gained from the marketing side. And particularly for Kosovo, because it is quite a new market, it's even a double opportunity for you, because you can really be leaders in the country as you're taking this on and really pushing this forward. So there's a lot of resources on the EDGE website, and IFC, Sintali, and SGS are all ready to back you to help promote the project as soon as the certification comes through. So definitely something to keep in mind as another reason why EDGE certification makes a lot of sense. So hopefully you're now excited, ready to go, and you're ready to register multiple projects and multiple buildings around Kosovo and access some financing to get them built. In terms of next steps, how to actually go about doing this, the first step would be expressing your interest to your ProCredit representative. Let them know that you're interested in this program. Ask them any questions. Of course, we'll also have now about half an hour for questions, so we can answer anything now. But if anything comes up later, do feel free to reach out directly to ProCredit representatives. And then from there, ProCredit will work with us at Sintali-SGS to pair you with a consultant and help you take the first step, which will be doing this EDGE self-assessment, looking at the EDGE software and putting some basic information about your building into the application and being able to move forward with this process. So the next steps are right at your fingertips, but I think for now, we'll wrap it up here and open the floor to questions. We have lots of time, so feel free to ask absolutely anything and everything about green buildings, EDGE, the financing, the process. I think I speak for Rusmir and Fatos that we are ready and willing to answer anything that we can. I'll pass it back to Rusmir to navigate the next section.
Thank you so much, Eleni. So feel free to use the Q&A feature to ask your questions. I posted some things into the chat, so the chat is also fine. Q&A just sort of lets us see the questions as they come in order. And we can revisit anything from the actual incentive to the EDGE software to marketing benefits. We're happy to answer any of your questions, so don't be shy. There it is. Shevket has a question, so it just might take a second to write down. Yeah, please go ahead and just type them into the chat feature, because only the panelists are able to speak. And again, I apologize for lack of my video. Let's see. I know it is coming. So hopefully, as a recap, hopefully we showed you that the savings are there for you as a developer and as a way to actually differentiate yourself in the market. We showed you that working with this program allows you to access finance not only from ProCredit, but for all of the other commercial banks as well as development banks. We showed you that EDGE is connected to the European standards and others, and so there's a lot of different areas to do that. Okay, I think the questions are coming in. Just have to open. I have to open up.
And maybe something worth mentioning actually there, we have had the first project registered in Kosovo already actually. So Pristina Mall is currently registered and going for certification within Kosovo. So this is happening already within the market, and it's very exciting times. So we definitely are looking forward to seeing more and more green buildings throughout Kosovo using EDGE.
Excellent. Give me 1 second. I have lost my Q&A panel.
On this note, I just want to inform that we as well will register our own head office in EDGE starting from this new year. So we are excited to do so.
Leading by example, which is exactly you. See, ProCredit is not just saying that EDGE is good, they're doing it themselves. It's very important.
Exactly. And ProCredit is certifying its other offices as well across Europe as well. So that's great. Okay. There are a couple of questions coming out. So one of them is, how are the savings accounted on the operational phase? So if you are talking about the EDGE savings, and I can show the screen. So there are operational savings for you as a developer, or for the ultimate buyer, and there's obviously savings there are savings that are happening on the level of the loan itself. 1 second, I need to make myself back into presenter. So the savings are what we would consider a predicted savings, but Edge will connect information and share it in the system. So when it comes to the net zero information, we'll ask you for some more inputs, and then we will calculate the savings. So the main thing with net zero, and we're doing this back in January, what you have to do is match your consumption with your savings, with your consumption with the procurement of renewable energy or credits. So the utility cost reductions and these incremental costs, that should stay with the building itself. So even after the building gets certified, this particular utility cost reduction is something that we expect after the post-construction period. Edge does have information from projects that have been certified that show, for example, in South Africa, that the utility savings resulted in 1 month of the rental fee for free during the course of the year. South Africa has very quickly rising utility costs. We work with a firm that has a rental portfolio, and there the savings resulted in 1 month of rent for free because they have smart meters that show that. If the building is getting net zero, that's probably a little bit easier with commercial buildings than with residential. What they will do is you will do an offsite renewable energy procurement. So you have to show that there are some things that you're saving on site. You have to get to 40% on site, and then the rest you will be purchasing through either renewable energy procurement or carbon offsets. We will do a workshop on this in January, and we can explain more information at that point then. Let's see, Shefkat had a lot of interesting questions, which is how long is the process of application approval take until it's ready to start the actual project? So this is maybe a little bit more to Fatos around how long is the process of approval to starting the project?
Well, if your question is about approval for finance from ProCredit, then it is not longer than the usual process. So usually we do have a loan process application until approval, depends on the size of the business and as well on the size of the loan, but from 5 up to 10 days since the application. So it won't take longer than 2 weeks of working time to get an approval for the Edge, let's say, application and as well on the loan.
But then the process,
yeah.
And I think the project does need to commit in their loan to certification. That may take a little bit longer, and it really depends on the quality of the materials. So that's why working with a technical expert, which you get for free through Eleni's offer, is really important. So again, we see that Edge projects can be certified very, very quickly if the right person knows what they're doing and they're able to collect the materials correctly. Anything else on that, Eleni, on the speed of the actual certification?
Yeah, so I was going to say, I mean, we're talking about, a couple of months. You could go through the entire process. It's all about having the right documentation and being able, at the end of the day, the entire Edge certification process is just about proving that you have designed and built the building as you said you have. So really having the right documentation to just validate everything that you're doing. And if you're able to do that, and as Rusmir said, it really does help to have this technical support to just make sure that everything is as top quality as possible. And then it really is a quick process from our side. And so that's really quite a unique feature for Edge. There's definitely other green building standards that you could take years to go through the process, but from the actual Edge process, it's pretty straightforward and pretty streamlined. So it's really up to you as a developer, as a client, having the information, and then also, of course, construction timelines and how long it takes to construct something.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important. I kept mentioning that with Edge, you will know if you're compliant with the software because the standard is very quantifiable. It is not about just the collecting the documents, but through the self-assessment process and working with the EDGE expert, you will know in advance whether you're passing the technical standard. Now, it may take a few rounds to prove that and collect the right materials, but it should not come as a surprise, because remember, at the end of the EDGE checklist, at the end of the EDGE PDF, there is a checklist that shows you all of the different pieces that you have to collect.
And if you are struggling to meet the standard, again, the EDGE application has all the ideas that you need about what you could do in your building to make it more resource efficient. So all of those options on the left-hand side are literally your shopping checklist of efficiency measures that you could implement to help you improve the impact of your building. So it helps you in multiple ways and really guides you through the process.
Great. Lots of other great questions. So one of them is, does the project have to be built in a certain location or area? So ProCredit's offer is valid for Kosovo, the entire country. In the EDGE software, you will see that Pristina is the only city that we currently have. However, you can select Pristina and then select your exact location down the bottom. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like. So pardon me again, I'm going to share my screen. So when I go into the location, I can see Kosovo is here. There's Pristina. But down here, one of the areas that we didn't show you is all of the different key assumptions for the base case. So the beauty of EDGE is, when I was modeling this building, I only did the base case scenario, what a typical building looks like, maybe with a 60 meter square apartment. You will be able to put in your own information here and model the building that's specific to you. You can start broad, say, we're thinking about 10 floors, we're thinking about this, and then kind of narrow that down to the exact specifications you have in the end. Part of the building key assumptions for the base case is that you can override the latitude here. And I don't think that there's many differences in the temperature in Kosovo, but you can do that here as well. And then if, I talked about if there is a cost of electricity or other fuels that is expected to rise, you can do additional kind of very quick modeling to show what that utility saving will be for your ultimate client as well. So all of that is on the design tab of EDGE. So the entire country is valid. You can select Pristina and then here select the exact latitude. Let's see, there were a lot of other great questions. One of them was around if there is a recertification period and if there's any cost. So if you remember, and again, this will be recorded and we'll share with you, Eleni was showing a very important word in the certification process, which is that it's a asset certification. So EDGE, the final certificate is considered an asset certification. It does not need to be renewed. If you want to have your building be certified with EDGE's, the net zero standard, then you do need to recertify. But that recertification only has to be done every few years, and it's much cheaper. So while the cost of the EDGE certification is about, I can share my screen. The cost of the EDGE certification is about $10,000, give or take. The cost of the recertification for net zero has typically been around $500. So the preliminary EDGE certificate is your first step. This will be important for your mortgage buyers and others, and to get the loan through to ProCredit. The final EDGE certificate, or if it's an EDGE Advanced, is an asset certification, does not need to be renewed. And then the zero carbon is the operational certificate that needs to be renewed every 2 years if you're procuring energy offsite, or every 4 years if you have an on-site PV system. But if you stop at this, it's fine, does not need to be renewed. So I hope that clarified that. Let's see. We talked about Krishna Mall savings. I think one of the questions that maybe we can repeat again, how long is the auditing process from application to certification? So Eleni, if you want to talk a little bit about the remote audit process and anything else that happens from both the paper audit as well as the on-site audit.
Absolutely. So if we think about how you would go through the process, Once you get your loan approval, or if you're going straight for certification, regardless of the financing, you would start with a kickoff meeting with your free consultant who would just train you on using the Edge application and give you the information that you need. And then you would go through a process of building out the self-assessment and building out the documentation. Now, that is going to depend on how available your documentation is, and just how much time is being spent to be able to build that out. For my partner's favorite story is, if you have all the information, you can build it out, the self-assessment, in 20 minutes. And he's proven it, having built an assessment based on information he finds online before meetings, 20 minutes before. So you can build the self-assessment quite quickly if you know you're building. Now, the documentation, of course, will take a little bit longer. I don't assume you have a magical folder with all the documentation you need on your website, on your desktop, ready to go. But it is quite a straightforward process. And actually, within the application, there's information that pops up in the various spots that gives you guidance on what documentation is needed. And of course, you'll have the consultant as well. So let's assume that bit is done. You've done all the documentation and you're now submitting it for audit. From the point that it's submitted, it takes 2 to 3 weeks for it to be reviewed by the auditor. And then that process, you might get some questions. If it needs to get sent back, then it starts again. So it kind of depends, the timing depends on the quality of the documentation. But in the best case scenario, where you've provided everything and it's absolutely perfect, within 2 or 3 weeks, it would have been reviewed and go for certification. And again, 2 to 3 weeks there, done. So you'd be looking at potentially within 6 weeks, having gone through the preliminary audit and preliminary certification and holding a certification in your hand for that preliminary stage. Same is true within the site audit and final certification. So once the project is built and you're ready for site audit, we get that site audit scheduled. And again, it's a 2 to 3 week process where the site audit's happening. And again, there's more documentation check and an assessment that's then being submitted for final certification. And again, 2 to 3 weeks for that review process. Now, obviously, COVID has made site audits quite challenging this year. But the good news is that our partner for auditing, which is SGS, one of the largest global auditing firms, had been actually rolling out remote site auditing over the last couple of years, simply because it makes more sense and it gives you as the client a little bit more flexibility in terms of when things can be scheduled. So for clients that are interested in remote site auditing, and again, if you do go for this option, you get a 20% discount on the audit fees. What happens is essentially you are providing a representative that can walk around the building and will give you access to an application, and you'll be listening to an auditor through a headset, and the auditor will guide you to what you need to specifically look at. You have to measure some taps for some water, take a few pictures, and use the information within the application, and of course, paired along with the auditor that is virtually with you to guide you through this process. So there's different options. Alternatively, if you're not interested in the remote audit, a auditor can travel and be on site and do that process themselves. Again, just walking around, taking photographs, taking measurements, and just checking that everything that's been reported is actually built according to what was stated. So it's a quite a straightforward process. Again, it all depends on how ready the documentation is, if there's questions, if there's back and forth and clarifications required. But in the ideal scenario, 2 to 3 weeks for audit, 2 to 3 weeks for certification within each phase.
Great, thank you, Eleni. I don't see other questions, so I'll do a few more logistics, but questions, you're obviously welcome to share them. So I want to end by showing you other resources that we have and just kind of clarify all of the other pieces. So you will see this link in your documentation in the presentation that we'll send you are the Edge YouTube, and you can see that we do promote some videos and they get seen by 250,000 people. So we want you to be the first projects that are being certified in Kosovo, that there's some paid promotion behind IFC, so that you're getting some really interesting value out of that. This is on the marketing side. On the technical side, the extra information around the Edge app is here. So before you go into your meeting with the consultant, with the Edge expert, you can brush up on your knowledge by watching some of our training videos, which are available here. And then, as I mentioned, the webinar that we're doing today will be uploaded here in this section on the Edge webinars. The rest of the information is here under the project studies with lots of other info and other events that we're doing around Edge. That's edgebuildings.com. For now, we want to remind you that the webinar was being recorded and the materials will be shared. Hopefully, you will be able to fill out our survey at the end of the process. The WebEx will ask you to open up a new website. Please know it's not spam or any kind of phishing. It is a legitimate SurveyMonkey survey, and it does help us change our delivery as needed and have a better way of knowing what it is that you want in the future. Before we end, we do want to acknowledge IFC's donor partners who have made Edge and IFC's work in green building possible. They are the reason that the Edge software is free today to you, because these governments and institutions have generously promoted our green buildings work for both technical side, awareness raising, and promotional activities. I'll leave the webinar running just a little bit if there's any other questions, but we want to thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your interest in Edge, and we hope you will join us in transforming the construction markets in Kosovo and becoming a really important model for the rest of the world. So I'll stop the recording now, but we'll leave the webinar open for any other questions.